So the Clone Wars Micro Series, Volume 1. I'm only covering the first volume. I haven't watched the second one yet as of recording this. This is a very, action-packed show. I feel like that's the first thing I should say about this. This Micro Series. Now, this very violent, action-packed show that's all 3 minutes long, and it's great. I do enjoy this. And I remember people saying, oh, you need to watch this 2003 Clone Wars show. It's so much better than, 2008 one, and, oh, it's so much more better. Screw you, Disney, for making this Legends. And I'm yeah, it's a good show, but it's not that great. I mean, granted, I've only seen, I think, 50% of the show. And I am classifying this as Volume 1, because I actually looked it up. There's actually 3 seasons. The first 2 are more 3 minutes, very action-packed, little dialogue. Then the third season is actual full-length episodes. I'm only covering the 3-minute ones, so all Volume 1. That's what I'm kind of collecting it as. I'm going to assume a DVD cover is Volume 1 and Volume 2. I'm doing Volume 1, because that's what it is on Disney+, and that's where I watched it. So, yeah, watching on Disney Plus is weird because there is no episodes. It's just all one sitting, which makes it a lot to kind of unpack, and my head kind of is just full of this violent and action-packed adventures, which not all of it's connected. I'm gonna assume all these episodes take place during the same time period, which is the beginning of the Clone Wars, because a lot of it's following the same characters, but it does occasionally go to different characters here and there. Of course, they're following Obi-Wan and Anakin, and the voice acting is very funny. Also, the animation is very funny. I laughed a bit, not through jokes, just through the animation being so weird and funny. I don't know how it is. It's unintentionally funny. I don't think they were going for this being a comedy, but there's some points where this feels like a comedy. It's just the way certain scenes act out. It's very it's so crazy. There's a 3-minute segment with Mace Windu, and I laugh my ass off. It's just, he doesn't talk, it's just his expressions. He's just so pissed off. It's funny. A lot of the characters have very pissed off expressions, which makes it funny. Also, even the dialogue, they're just nonchalantly saying oh yeah, I'm fine, after blowing up 15 vast ships. Obi-Wan and other characters yeah, I'm fine, yeah, cool, let's move on. It's it does not feel like the Star Wars universe, or what the prequels are aligned to. I'm glad and I'm fine this is not canon anymore, because this is how am I supposed to explain this? The way the characters act in the first part of this, or Volume 1, does not act the way they do in the prequel trilogy. Already, I'm already seeing that. And I like this fan theory, or my headcanon I had for a while now, which is that this show is just what people in the galaxy interpret the Jedi as to be. These unstoppable beings. That's what I assume that they're trying to go for in this series, because these characters do not feel like actual characters, or the characters that were seen in the prequel trilogy, or episode 1 and 2, because this was before Revenge of the Sith. So from only episode 1 and 2, this is how these characters are supposed to be portrayed, and it doesn't feel like it. It feels like they're just action figures. It feels like kids playing with action figures, which is an appeal. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying this does not work for a show that's supposed to tie into a trilogy that's very story-driven and dialogue-driven. It feels kind of a complete opposite. I should say a lot of this volume has a lot of connections to the 2008 Clone Wars, a lot of inspiration, a lot of there's continuity, even though this isn't canon anymore. This has a lot of continuity with at least 2008. There's a lot of influence, and it's a lot. I'm not gonna cover all of it, but there's a lot of it, with characters and Padawan apprentices being the same. I'm where's Ahsoka? Ahsoka? Are you in this? No, I know she's not in it, but that would have been cool. That would have been really crazy if she was. But this show has Asajj Ventress making her first appearance, I think, ever in Star Wars, and she's very cool. She does a lot more than I think she does in the 2008 one, even though I think she dies in this. Also, yeah, so she's in this. She becomes the apprentice. We actually get to see that. We see Anakin more in episode 2 form. His voice is very annoying. I'm glad they got Matt Lantern to do his 2008, because my god, he just sounds so wimpy. Now, you do get introduced to General Grievous, which his introduction, I may add, is very cool. And I'm fine that he was changed in, like Revenge of the Sith in the Clone Wars. I'm fine that he's like this coward in that, in Revenge of the Sith. Because here, he is much more badass. But in Star Wars fashion, to have a character be the way they look isn't the way it goes. Grievous being a coward is much more compelling and more interesting to me than him just being a badass. Because in Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars, he's this four-armed cyborg that kills Jedi. That's what we're told, but he's a coward, he runs away, he loses one limb, he runs away. That's what this Grievous I know. And I like to keep it that way. Because Grievous in the show does not sound like the way he does. He doesn't act the way he does. He fights very, very chaotically, to the point where he's just spinning his arms around in a circle and lightsabers are just a blur. And I would rather have the coward Grievous. I know that's like an unpopular opinion, but I would rather have that. Looks can be deceiving, and that's what Star Wars is about. Never judge a book by its cover. And I mean, he's cool. I mean, having Jedi be feared of him to the point where they're just oozing out sweat is just incredible. And his introduction, I think it was the last episode of the volume that I watched. His introduction was cool. He was very cool. I'm expecting to see more of him in volume 2 because it felt like more of a cliffhanger more than anything. But overall, this micro series so far, for volume 1 at least, that's what I'm covering here, is very action-packed with very little storytelling, and I like stuff that has both. I want stuff that has more storytelling in it, because it's like, I would rather watch, like, a more story-compelled thing with dialogue. That's to say I don't want action, but I don't want to watch something that's just all action, because it feels like a waste of time to a certain extent. And I know that's going to be weird for me to say, but that's what we want to watch rather than this. And I'm glad that this is not canon. I'm glad this is Legends. And I'm glad I watched Volume 1. I understand why this show is the way it is. I understand. I know some people will be mad, like, oh, how do you hate this show? It's great. But I feel like a lot of people are saying that because of nostalgia. But I didn't watch this when I was a kid. I didn't know this existed until I really, like, went online, like, years ago. But yeah, the show's alright. It's good, but it's just, if you want something that's more story-driven, this is not the place you're looking for. But with that out of the way, where do I put this in my rankings? The Clone Wars micro-series Volume 1 goes above Rebels Season 2, but below Rebels Season 3, I know, pretty shocking. Rebels. It's below Rebels. Yeah, that's, because I'd rather have something more story-driven. That thing, it's one of those things that I'm really difficult to rank, because, like, where do I put this? It's just, majority of the show, or the volume, is just action. Like, there's no story, really. But the story they did tell, it was effective. But it's not that effective to put it in, like, top 10. It's just here. That's where I can really put it. Do you agree or disagree? I know some people are going to be mad about that. Like, how the hell can you put it that low? It's a great show. It's better than the Clone Wars show. It's 2008. Yeah, but I'd rather have something more story-driven than just all action. Sorry, that's where I'm putting it. I do like the show, but I like the action. I like the way it portrays the Jedi and, the villains. I think it's cool, but I would rather it stay Legends, because it doesn't have much value. It doesn't connect to the prequel trilogy. Like, if I were to watch this after Attack of the Clones, it feels such a tonally different thing. And I don't like that. So that's where I'm leaving it. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. I'm gonna go now. So goodbye, everyone.